It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this solemn function organized this evening in observance of the third anniversary of Corona pandemic. It was exactly on this day 3 years ago, the Union government promulgated a nationwide lockdown as part of its overall health strategy to contain the transmission of the virus. At the outbreak of the pandemic, the first public reaction was one of fear and panic, scurrying to shores of safety and confining themselves safe and secure in their homes so that they are not infected by the virus. But a few Mumbaikars, like several others across the country and even beyond this country, thought otherwise. The humanity in them came to full fore. They swung into action and plunged right into the center of the health disaster to alleviate the sufferings of those who were affected by the pandemic, to transport to the nearest hospital all those who were infected by the virus for immediate medical attention, to the poor and the needy, whose only source and solace support system from the economy had drained up momentarily, to provide them basic minimum necessities of life, to the migrant labor, generally from the unorganized sector, left high and dry on the highway of life, with heightened anxiety to reach their near and dear ones in their hometown, to transport them by safe and secure routes quickly to their homeland to be with their families, and above all, to provide a dignified departure to the demise. These foot soldiers, these stars of our generation, came from all walks of life. The common cord that connected all of them was their desire to mitigate the hardships and the distress of all those affected by this pandemic. This virus, less than 1/10 the size of a bacteria, brought about the greatest healthcare disaster that the world had ever seen in our living times, and even a few centuries before. It infected the entire world. It devoured over 6 million lives and infected over 500 million people across the 7 continents in this world. It put paid to all human efforts during the period of the pandemic. Small wonder, every spectre of human activity suffered a setback. Global economies shrunk during this period, and the ugly head of poverty raised its head across the peninsula of habitation across this country. It irretrievably altered the way we think, the way we communicate, the way we socialize. At a time when we are meeting here today, it augurs well that the pandemic is on the wane and the virulence of the virus has also subsided, thanks to the collaborative effort of the central government and the state governments, and by and large, the enthusiastic participation of the people of the country. But there is need for heightened vigil and alacrity, as across the borders, the virus is still active and is threatening to sneak into our lands with various mutations and variants of the same virus. There is an outpouring of emotion and gratitude when it comes to those Mumbaikars who stood by the city in those darkest months at the peak of the virus. Most of them were unseen, unsung heroes and heroines, less visible, never known before. They were never in the limelight, but they soon emerged as the eternal light in our lives. It is the human spirit in them that we are worshipping today. That spirit that gives us courage, strength, and above all, compassion during periods of adversity. Human memory is fickle and at times even treacherous. The greatest lesson from history that we ever learn, said Aldous Huxley, is that we do not learn from history. Sooner or later, these noble acts will go out of the radar of visibility of the eye, far away from the iris of the lens, slip into the pages of history and into the archives of the country, never to be read again. It's time to honor and felicitate these heroes, not so much for them, but for the residual citizenry, to draw inspiration from their achievements and their contribution, change course in their life from self-centered pursuits to service above self. Any excuse for celebration is fine. Celebrations essentially are of two types. of thanksgiving to the divine and of keeping the past behind, knowing full well that this life is eternal. Life, my dear friends, is like a Christmas tree, evergreen, fresh. No amount of snow or storm can weather its petal. So too is the human spirit. Despite the clouds of adversity through which it passes in a life sojourn of a person, it always emerges triumphant. By its very nature, human spirit is celebration. But not all partying in life is celebration. But if a purpose is attached, then that celebration becomes sacrosanct. And then the body, the mind and the soul are in sync and in the same page. We are experiencing such a feel this evening. So therefore, to begin with, of course, is thanksgiving to the good Lord for having given us this blessed evening. The Ishopanishad says, Isavasyam idam sarvam yat kanchane jagatyam jagat. Whatever happens, wherever happens, is permeated by the same divine force. It is that divine force which has given us this evening, where all the positive forces, call them by any name in any faith, they have converged together and descended onto this Sabhagraha in honor of humanity. भगवान कहाँ स्थित है? नवदूर गगन पे या वैकुंठ के निवासी है? नाहम वासामि वैकुंठे योगिनाम हृदयेन च मद्भक्ता यत्र गायन्ति तिष्ठामि तत्र हो नारदा said the Lord. वो तो सर्वव्यापी है, वो हम पर विराजमान है, हमारे गुणों पे समावेश है, वो खेत पे रहेगा, कलियां पे रहेगा. भगवान जो है बंदे इंसान पे रहेगा. इंसानियत ही भगवत की एकमेव लक्षण है. आज इस सभागृह पे भव्य शाम मानवता का पूजन हो रहा है और इंसानियत की एक विशेष आराधना हम कर रहे हैं. आओ हम सब मिलकर इस पे शामिल हो जाए. In as much as heroes and heroines, less known, more known, or little known, emerged across the world in the fight against Corona, it was India which showed the world the way. India adhered to the Upanishadic principles of its governance, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. As chairman of G20 during this year, even in the logo that it has adopted for G20, it carries the caption of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The Upanishad says, I am Nijah Parovedi Gananam Laguchetasam Udhara Charitanam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is mine, that is yours, is essentially a thought of the narrow-minded, but to the large-hearted, the entire universe is one family. At the peak of the virus, India launched Vaccine Maitri, by which it distributed 235 million doses of the vaccine, absolutely free of cost, gratis, to 98 low-income emerging economies across the world. At the instance of Mr. Donald Trump, the then President of the United States of America, India supplied with such alacrity and speed never before seen, even in our own history, 50 million doses of hydroxychloroquine, which at that time was mistakenly believed without any medical evidence that it is the first line of defense in upper respiratory tract infections. But what was required was the speed that was shown by the country in responding to the need of another state. India vaccinated 225 crore, I think the meter is still going on, of the adult population of this country, overall increasing the immunity levels and thereby effectively containing the virus, which no other country could manage it so easily. But to top it all, India brought back 1.83 crore Indians stranded across world capitals, across major nations of the world, in 213,000 flights, a record of a sort never before seen in the history of aviation, not only earning the gratitude of the people who of course came to their motherland or their families, or still better the nation, but even the world watched with admiration and awe as to how India took care of its citizens at that critical hour. The Subhashita says that there are 4 types of people in this universe. Ete satpurushaha pararthakatakaha samanyasu udyamabhutaha Te api manusha rakshasaha parahitam swartyam nindandiye. And Raja Bhartahari then concludes by saying, Te kena janimahe. People who do good to others, even at the cost of their own good, they are the best amongst people. People who do good to themselves as they do good to others, they are also good. People who do good to themselves at the cost of others' good, he says, Manusha Rakshasaha, they were devils, demons amongst people. And last is a category which neither does good to itself, nor does good to others, dog in the major. And that's why he said, Teke na jani mahe, I don't understand. There is an English verse which also echoes the same thought, a similar thought, that there are three types of people in this universe. One who turn up their sleeves at all times, one who turn their nose, and one who never turn up. By any standards of evaluation, these awardees of this evening, the shining stars, the Utsava Murtis of today, belong to the Prathama Shreni, the first category of human beings that this blessed world has given to us. The Sri Shanmukhananda Fine Arts and Sangeeta Sabha and the South Indian Education Society have always been in the forefront in bringing onto the stage, this Vyasapita, countless number of unseen, unsung heroes and heroines who emerge at every time that the city goes through a turbulence, a devastation of a type that it had not experienced before. Those champions of humanity emerge and they are brought onto this stage to be honored, felicitated, and then given an award more so for others. On the 6th of August 2005, when this city was marooned by the torrential rains that came into the city for 2 days, water levels rose to the extent of 2-storied buildings. There were amazing tales of sacrifice, indomitable spirit and courage of ordinary people who, themselves aware of the fact that they will get drowned if they were to get into the waters, went about saving several lives. They were all honored and conferred the Spirit of Mumbai Awards from this very platform. On the 11th of July 2006, when the serial bomb blast ripped through the lifeline of the city, the suburban railway system, killing instantly 189 people and critically injuring more than 700 people, there are again tales, extraordinary tales of ordinary citizens, unmindful of the bombs or anything, went about saving lives. They were honored with the Spirit of Mumbai Awards on the 15th of August 2006. The long coastline of the city, porous as it is, and the momentary failure of the intelligence system brought into the city 10 ordinary youth, misguided, all in the name of jihad, who came in and held the city to ransom between 26th and 29th of November 2008. There was an outpouring of rage at the collapse of the entire governance system. But be that be aside, it was a remarkable story which saw all segments of the society raising to the call and the need of the hour, be it the police constabulary, the armed forces, the elite commandos, be it those doctors and nurses in the government hospitals, the Kama hospital and the other hospitals, be it those employees and guests in the starred hotels, be it the announcer in the Vichi railway station, or the porters, the chaiwalas, the parcel agents, all of them, without least fear of the terrorist attack of the AK-47 that was staring before them, went about saving lives. At a glittering function on the 5th of December 2008, all these people, 38 of them, were conferred the Spirit of Mumbai Awards at the hands of the then Honorable Governor, Sri S.C. Zamir. It is in continuation of that tradition that we are conferring the Spirit of Mumbai Awards today. I am not overwhelmed by praises or by criticism alike, said Walter Mozart, the greatest musician of our living times. These awardees have only heeded to the call of the conscious. They have humbled us by the spirit of humanity in them. They have conclusively demonstrated what Emperor Hirohito of Japan said at the first hijack in the aviation history, which affected Japan in 1960, that one human life is heavier than the earth. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, if you do not have a cause to die for, you do not have a purpose either to live for. And all these awardees have lived They will continue to live and shall live for many more years in the hearts and minds of this grateful city and its citizens for the remarkable work that they have done during the pandemic. No one has ever been honored for what he has received. It has been essentially for what he has given. It is one thing to deserve an honor and not have it, and other thing is to have it and not deserve it. Dignity lies not in possessing an honor, but deserving it, said Mark Twain. Honor and shame from no condition arise. Act well your part, therein the honor lies, said Pope John Paul VI. Each one of them have played their part so well on the stage of life that they are worthy of adulation, encomiums, or whatever is being given to them today. In honoring them, we are honoring ourselves. We are conscious and aware of the fact that such acts of nobility, the highest of humanity, cannot be reduced to objects of adulation and honors and titles and accolades. But then the civil society knows no other means to inspire the residual citizenry to draw lessons from the champions of humanity, change course in their own lives, and to be purposeful and achieve the objects of their birth. We are beholden to Mr. Ramesh Bhais, the Honorable Governor of Maharashtra, for his gracious presence this evening in our Sabhagraha. This is the first occasion that the Honorable Governor has come to our Sabhagraha, and more importantly, for our program. I am sure, and we will pray, that there shall be many more occasions during the residual tenure of the Honorable Governor to witness the various programs on this Vyasapita, this stage of happenings. It's a great stage, and I'm sure you will have many more occasions to come to us. Thank you, sir, for your presence this evening. As I come to the end of my address this evening, may we all be blessed to draw a leaf from the life of nobility of all these awardees, incorporate into our lives through passage of time in this eternal quest in our pilgrimage of perfection, a little of the selflessness, sacrifice and seva of all these people, and then make our lives sublime. Thank you and God bless.